Hello, unstoppable real estate investors. I am Raylene Starr, your host with the Unstoppable Real Estate Investor podcast, learning from the top 5% experts in the industry. And I am coming to you live with David DeVito. And Dave has been very patient with me, and I'm running a little late, everyone, because of technical challenges. And I just wanted to apologize for that, because typically I would be on time for this. And so I just want to thank you all for being patient with me. So Dave, I wanted to just interview you because you have a lot of experience and it's pretty unique. And, we only have people every Wednesday. The podcast is interviewing top 5% experts, people that have made it in real estate. There's a dismal failure rate of 95% of people that try to invest in real estate lose their shirts. They don't succeed. Dave's been at this a long time. And then on Fridays, we have a podcast where we do member spotlights in the group. So Dave, I wanted to start with thanking you for your patience. Dave's got a call with a client one, so we're going to really keep this under 30 minutes. So we have a lot to cover. Dave, why don't you share with me first off, welcome and thanks for being interested in being on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Great. And so let's start with, what were you doing before real estate investing, and tell us your journey of transitioning into real estate investing.
Yeah, sure. No, I'd be happy to. So I was in the advertising business in New York City for quite a while. I was in the ad sales business, ran some sales teams, a lot of media and ad tech companies like Newsweek, some YouTube ad tech companies, social media influencer, content. I've done out of home. I've done events and experiential marketing. I was a partner in an experiential marketing agency most recently. And, real estate, I started about 8 years ago. So it started as a side hustle, which is very easily to do. But the thing about it, Rihanna, is that I really had an interest in real estate investing about 25 years ago. And so my biggest regret in this whole thing is that I waited about maybe 17 years too long, but better late than never, I guess, right?
Well, why? What prevented you from getting into it sooner?
Sure.
You knew you wanted it.
Yeah, no, totally. It was, I was a young guy, living in Manhattan in New York with a bunch of good college friends. We were at that age starting all our respective careers. And I was fortunate to find a really nice job in the advertising business. I started making some money, meeting some people, just enjoying life. And, I built a pretty successful career, but, I didn't have that mindset at the time to kind of say, hey, even if you have a career, it doesn't mean you can't do both. And side hustles weren't really a thing back then, if that makes sense. And so I just kind of took off and got those golden handcuffs in corporate America, as they say, and just kept going. But about 8 years ago, I got a postcard, an invitation from Tarek El Moussa, from HGTV. He's got a company, as you know, that does a lot of coaching. And it was for a free seminar at one of the local hotels in my area here in Connecticut. And my wife said, hey, you got to go to this. I know you've always been into this. Thank you for supporting the family. I've got a beautiful wife and 2 children.
That's awesome to have a wife that supports you in pursuing your dream. Oh, you need that in this business.
Absolutely. I could not have done many things achievement. My wife is the most supportive person, and that's one of the reasons why I love her very much. And so she kind of, kicked me in the butt a little bit. She said, and it's ironic because I am a very driven person, and I typically do take action. I'm not afraid to do things, but she's like, Dave, you know what? This is for you. This is part of it. And at the time, corporate America was evolving, in general. It was a stage of my life, and things were not the way it was when I first got into the ad business. And so I went and sat through one of these, half-day seminars, and Tarek's coaching company did a really nice thing. I mean, obviously they're pitching a coaching business, which I could respect, and that's fine, but they gave me enough to be dangerous. And that's the date I learned what wholesaling was. I basically, and I never heard of it, right? You always hear those Carlton Sheets commercials from back in the day, like, oh, make money in real estate without your own money. And wholesaling, as you know, is a large part of that. And so I took copious notes. I'm a note taker. I'm one of those guys. And so I took a lot of notes, and I didn't buy his course in the back of the room that day, but I started to really do some diligence and research and just started diving in. And my marketing and advertising experience is really a godsend for me. I'm a marketer by nature. I believe that
Yeah, hold that thought, because I want to really focus in on that.
Sure.
That
Absolutely.
you are blessed to have that, because marketing, wouldn't you agree, is the heart of the business. Any business, it is the heart of the business.
I agree.
It's a revenue generating activity. So you have that going for you. But why wholesale? What, as you got into learning, is that the first thing you learn? Because there's a lot of exit strategies, a lot of ways to make money in real estate. So what was it about wholesaling that appealed to you?
No, great question. And I am into a bunch of other things, which we'll get to on this podcast, obviously. But wholesaling, a couple of things. One, the lack of risk of my own money. I had a little bit of money, but I didn't have the confidence I get yet to really dive in, big. Like, I have no aspirations to be a rehab or flipper, which I know based on the TV shows are the popular route, but that's fine. And I really enjoyed the deal. I love chasing the deal. I love negotiating. I love networking. I love trying to help people out. And, that's part of it. The wholesalers that are doing it right, and the wholesalers doing it with integrity, which I like to think I am, it's important to me, are really truly helping people that really need to sell. They're in a distressed situation, and I'm a very fair guy. I try to educate my sellers. Like, I've turned down deals from sellers in which I could have made a lot of money because I try to help them keep their house first. And so wholesaling was just interesting for me, and it was also different. And
Hold that thought. I just want to say hi to a couple of people that have joined us.
Sure.
So this is Dave DeVito, everybody, and he got into real estate investing about 8 years ago. He transitioned from a career in marketing and advertising, so it was a real easy transition for him. He focuses on wholesaling. I wanted to say hi to Arn Senadella, Kathy Thornburg, Gavin Watson. Man, it's been a long time, Gavin. Dwayne Kidman. Sorry, everybody, I started a little late because I was duking it out with a new headset, and technology just was messing with me today. And Dave's been such a champ. And Kathy Thornburg saying, Dave DeVito, you're so awesome. So do you know Kathy? Do you know Kathy, Dave? She's one of my clients. Yeah.
Kathy's last name?
A real beautiful redhead. Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead and tell us, because the heart of any business is really marketing, and you have a real strong background in marketing. So tell us how you started using your background in marketing to transition into real estate and wholesaling. And
Sure.
Tell us what routine in marketing is, because that's the thing I find I have the biggest challenge with. And I know are you coaching people now too?
I mentor people. I don't have a coaching program that's paid. That's part of the vision down the road. But I do mentor a lot of bird dogs who I coach.
Yes. So the biggest challenge a lot of newer investors have is, one, they're overwhelmed, but two, it's really getting their arms around the marketing, like just how important it is to do it every day and be relentless and do it a lot, because it's a numbers game, and to make peace with that there's a grind, and you're either going to spend your own time grinding away, but the better way to do this is you got to treat this like a business and invest in processes and systems and building a team. So tell us a little bit about how you got into it and started, and where your marketing started and where it is today.
Sure. So I did a lot in Google SEO. That's part of my background. I've worked with Google companies in the past. That's the best intent-based stuff. And, I did a little bit of my own. I did a little bit with third parties, services that do this for paid aspect of it. But, the base of any successful marketing is just really identifying and knowing your target client and customer. Before you start doing the outreach and putting yourself out there, you've got to really understand the context in which you're speaking to these people. It's funny, like, getting back to as being a wholesaler, everyone's excited about finding the great deal, which obviously is important to the lifeblood of it. But what I tell people that I mentor is start with your buyers first. Learn what your buyers are buying first and really establish relationships and credibility and a knowledge of the buyer's criteria, because every investor is different. Every investor has a different criteria of what they feel is a good deal or not. And so, in my buyers will tell me, I really drilled my buyers. I put a pretty intensive interview, if they will, and trying to learn them and really getting to know, because you don't need thousands or even hundreds of buyers on your buyers list. Get a good 10 to 20, but really get to know them, really get to know.
Could I jump in there a second, emphasize something? We
Yeah.
call that reverse wholesaling, and it
Exactly.
start with the buyer in mind, and think of
Yes.
yourself as a wholesaler, as you're a personal shopper, and I cringe when I start working with someone new and we talk about building their buyers list, and that I'll say, well, how are you doing with your buyers list? Oh, I've got 200 people in there. Okay, tell me about that. How did you get this? Oh, well, I went in groups and I grabbed names and I put them on a list. And I said, okay, and what are you doing with that list? Nothing. I mean, you're not doing a drip campaign. Have you reached out to them? Do they even know they're on your buyer? No. And yet some of my most successful clients have 2 or 3 buyers. That's it. They have buyers that are just buying everything from them. So reverse wholesaling, really, the buyer is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That is your exit strategy as a wholesaler. So I absolutely agree with you. So tell us a little more about you and your relationship with buyers and how you build those relationships. Be
Sure.
specific, because I think
Sure.
a lot of newer wholesalers just don't understand how to do that.
Yep. Well, first of all, you have to understand what your value is. You've got to have what your story is. For me, my elevator pitch is I'm a wholesaler. I'm also a hard money, lender, and I'm a licensed realtor. So I basically reach out to them and I propose my value right away to gain that call, because, I've got many different things I do to get buyers, but Facebook is my number one platform that I leverage. And I probably belong to hundreds of real estate, the algorithm 8 years in the making knows me. I don't see any of my friends and family post anymore. I just see my whole feed is all real estate. So my profile is pretty valuable in terms of the seasoning of the algorithm, which is a whole other thing that we can go on about. And so when I join these groups, I'm a voyeur first. I see who's posting, who seems to be credible, because obviously, people like to call themselves an investor, but are they really doing deals? Or they just like to call themselves an investor or a wholesaler or whatever? And so I try to find the people that I could add value to, and I like their comment, but I don't comment very often. I'll direct message them with that elevator pitch saying, hey, I'm Dave, wholesaler, hard money lender. I could, find you deals, fund your deals, and help you sell your flips. Do you have a time for a 15-minute intro call? And I get them on the phone, because that's for a couple of reasons. One, it allows me to vet them a little bit and understand if they really are credible. One of the first things I ask is, hey, how many deals have you done? Tell me about your last deal and whatnot, and try to find out if they're really credible. And then proving my credibility, telling them about, what I'm going to offer them. You always got to be adding value. That's number one in sales. It's about them, not about you. And so trying to impress upon that, and just allowing them to get to know me personally a little bit. Integrity is number one thing. It's
I want to interject.
Yeah.
Want to interject something, Dave, that you're saying that is so important is, one, add value. But what I like about your approach is it's very personal and private. It's not public. You're not grandstanding, and you're vetting people. You're very conscientious that your time is value and your connections are important. So you found a way through mass volume, and over time, the algorithms now in anything, whether it's SEO on Google or in the algorithms on Facebook or LinkedIn, because you keep doing the same thing over and over, But what I like is you're hitting volume, but you're also then taking that volume and being discriminating and selective. And then
Yes.
you're being private, and then you're taking time to vet people. And it's quality, not quantity with buyers. You want to make sure you have people that know what they're doing, that they're not just talking a good game, that when push comes to shove and you have a deal for them, they're like, oh, no, sorry. Yes, so I really like that very specific strategy. Everybody pay attention if you're new. This is the way to build a buyer's list. It's such a simple but important thing as a wholesaler. You've got to start with the buyer in mind first. That's where you've got to start. Go ahead, Dave. What else do you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is that people buy, as they say, this is in all sales, whether it be wholesaling, real anything. They buy from people who they know, like, and trust. And so I'm always trying to establish that rapport and that relationship before I even talk to them about the business. And the other thing is that, anyone can sell a great deal. If it's a home run great deal, the buyers will come out of everywhere to buy it. But when you've got that relationship and that credibility, you need people to buy your good deals. There's still legitimate deals in which an investor can make money, but I've had a lot of my buyers say, Dave, this deal's okay, but I like working with you, and so I'm gonna buy this deal from you. And so that's as much of what I try to talk about, is build a tight relationship, and again, adding value. Like, I'm starting a mastermind, for example, with some of my better relationships, and I'm not charging a thing. I'm doing all the heavy lifting. I'm doing all the work. I'm doing all the organization and whatnot. But that's just a way for me to prove that I practice what I preach, and people appreciate you. And you got to put in a little bit of added value in that regard.
Well, you're developing a good reputation too by doing that. And you, again, are bringing value. I mean, you totally speak like someone from the marketing industry.
Thank you.
Add value,
Yeah.
Figure out who your ideal seller or ideal buyer is,
Mhm.
give more than you take. I love all that. So
Yep.
what would you say have been your biggest challenges as a wholesaler? And you're
Yeah.
also in a hard money lender. So say a little bit about those things too, after you
Sure.
talk about your biggest challenges.
Yeah, so I'll answer your second question first, give the audience an idea of everything that I'm doing. So, we talked about my wholesaling. I'm a licensed realtor with Keller Williams here in Connecticut, which is something relatively new. I got my license about 18 months ago because, when COVID was terrible, obviously, but I had a 2-hour commute each way to New York City from Connecticut. And so getting rid of that commute when everyone was working from home was hugely valuable. And so it allowed me to get my license, which I wanted to do for a while, because my first 6 years of wholesaling without my license, I couldn't refer out and I couldn't really do much with those 90% of the sellers that wanted more of a retail sell, as I call it. And so, I'm a licensed realtor, hard money lender in that regard. I have owned multifamilies. I'm an investor as well. I bought my first multifamily about 6 months after that seminar that I talked about 8 years ago. And so, I've done that as well in that regard.
So you're building your rental portfolio for passive income?
Well, that's my goal. Although I've sold them all during COVID, because I just got tremendous offers, during COVID. But I've got one short-term rental, because I'm pivoting, like a lot of people are right now, to short-term rentals. So I've got one property as a short-term rental, and I'm on hold right now because I'm holding my cash, because in the beginning of this year,
because there's things shifting with the market, inflation, rising interest rates, things are slowing down a little bit. Inventory's still low, but people are nervous and people make decisions emotionally and all that. So how has getting your real estate license helped you, and why did you want it? What do you see the benefit of that is? Because again, a lot of newer real estate investors wonder if they should do that. And I'll say, absolutely, but not right away. Start making some money first, and then you do that. So what are your thoughts on
Totally. Well, I got it because, first and foremost, it's allowing me to now monetize and do business with those sellers that aren't going to give me the price or the terms to wholesale it. So now I'm building a business in which I give sellers a choice. I present everything that I do, and that's the core of the company I'm trying to build right now, because I left my corporate job earlier this year. So I'm now full-time real estate for the first time in my career. So that's part of the reason why I'm holding my cash.
After 8 years. So this
After
is
8
your
years.
first year,
It's the first year that
2022
I'm
is your first
full-time.
year. How's
Yeah.
it going so far?
It's going great. I'm learning a lot. You know, I'll get to your challenges question in a moment because that's going to be cool. But it's been great trying to learn and dive in because I've run sales teams. I've never run a company before. So learning the operations in that aspect has been really an eye opener. But just having that freedom as everyone strives for, and there's a lot of things that freedom applies to, but the freedom of mindset to know that, you know, it's my mistake to make or not to make. And I make a lot of mistakes, but not having to worry about playing that corporate politics has been humongous and freeing my mind to just go. I like to run. I like to just go and get out there and not having to worry about, okay, if I do this, what are the implications internally? It's just me right now. But I got my license to, again, not only monetize those retail-based leads, but it's great networking. That's why I joined a large organization like Keller. I've made tremendous contacts in the context of just, you know, other accomplished individuals. And then just perspective. You know, when I first got my license, I intended just to refer out things. But now I've pivoted in my mindset and I'm looking to build a pretty extensive and large team of realtors that I'll take down the whole aspect of the deal. So my business that I'm focusing on right now is building out a team of realtors and a team of wholesaling acquisitions teams. And depending on the motivation or lack thereof of the seller, if they're a retail-based seller, I've got a team for that. And if they're not, if they're distressed and need to sell quickly and they don't have the appetite to be with a realtor traditionally, that's fine. I've got a whole team. And because it's all about giving the seller a choice. I'm not a high pressure guy. You know, even when I pretty much know that it's going to be a retail-based traditional realtor client, I tell them everything I do because a big mantra of mine, Rihanna, is one of my favorite phrases is different is better than better. Because it's very hard to be better if you're doing things the same way that 95% of the rest of the marketplace is doing. Whereas if I could differentiate myself, even if those clients of mine have no interest or appetite,
You don't blend in. You're
exactly.
It's like you're a zebra among otters. You know,
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. Listen, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I think I'm fairly intelligent, but I'm not the smartest guy in the room, even close to it. But if I could provide something that no one else is really talking about at scale, and not to say I'm the only guy doing both realtor and wholesaling work, but in my market, and we've got a pretty large brokerage, you know, people don't even know what wholesaling is in my brokerage. And so trying to get out there in this marketplace.
so
But
in your market, you're a big
Mhm.
fish in a little pond with the whole wholesaling concept. And a lot of agents don't know about wholesaling
Mhm.
and feel threatened by it or think it's bird dogging or whatever.
Yes.
So it is an advantage to be an agent that also does wholesaling. Because like you said, you can meet a seller wherever they're at. You have
Exactly.
creative financing in there and you can help any seller in any situation.
I
So
agree.
let's come back to that challenge question. Like,
Yeah.
what have been your biggest challenges?
I mean, the biggest challenge is the fact that, you know, I'm a sales and marketing guy. Most sales and marketing guys don't like to spend a lot of time on operations, right? And so that's where I've been lacking. I've been running after so many things. I've done some deals and had a nice year. But I about a month ago took a step back and I've slowed down. Like I'm not doing any paid marketing right now. I'm not doing any marketing. I gotta kind of take, you know, that old fable they say there's two lumberjacks chopping down a tree. One kind of keeps chopping, but the other one stops every 20, 30 minutes and sharpens the axe. The second one is the one that wins. So I'm stopping right now. I'm sharpening my axe because I know I'm a talented sales, marketing, networking guy. But in order to really scale to get the level in which I aspire to, I need systems and automation in place and a team.
Absolutely. You're talking my language. That is probably what I help people the most with is even just starting out with, let's talk about your time management. Let's talk about your schedule because operations, even though marketing is the heart of the business, I'd say networking, strategic networking is the lungs. Operations is the brain and the nervous system. You know, you don't have a business if you don't have any of those things going. You have to build relationships in this business. because you can't do it alone. You cannot do this business by yourself. You need other people to do it. So there's the strategic networking, which you've been brilliant at. And then the marketing we've touched on, but operations is all that day to day, managing your time well, appointments, team building, HR, budget, roles and responsibilities, leveraging processes and systems. You know, there's a book I recommend to every one of my clients, and I read it at least once a year, and that's Michael Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited. And he talks about this. We have three roles: the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And the main focus in that book is processes and systems, and looking at how you're doing things, figuring out the process, documenting it, and then hiring and training and repeating yourself, rinse and repeat. So where is the challenge for you specifically around operations?
It's all of that. it's automating. It's finding a team. I've been struggling to find, a team, especially in the wholesaling side, that shares not only the knowledge that I trust to kind of take on as my acquisitions agent, but also that integrity. I've met a lot of successful guys that make a lot of money and obviously know how to do it, but are not very virtuous. And I don't want to do business with them. And on the flip side, obviously I met a lot of integrity, people I respect, but they're just really too junior. So that's part of it. But it's also just that
What
automation.
what about your technology, and what's your day-to-day grind on the marketing? Are you doing all that yourself? Do you have any VAs? What kind of systems, CRM, batch dialer? Tell us how you're finding your
Sure.
lead.
Well, I find a lot of my leads basically just through a lot of my Facebook work and my networking and my inbound. Based on my reputation, people will bring me deals and such. But I'm right now looking to enhance my CRM. I'm literally really right now interviewing third-party CRMs to really scale in that regard. I am interviewing VAs to kind of have that leverage in that regard. So, again, I caught myself. I've been terrible, the last 8-9 months, but I stopped myself about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I'm really now checking off the CRM is the lifeblood, as of a business. So once I lock that down, and my coach is on me on that, and so I appreciate the accountability.
Yeah, that's your nervous system. That's
my
your nervous
system.
And what's awesome about you, Dave, is you're humble enough. And this is so great. This is what makes this podcast so wonderful when you have guests like you, is you don't have all the answers.
I don't.
You are fallible. You are sharing honestly what your challenges are, because I think more people can relate to you when they see that, this isn't a guy with all the answers. This is a guy who's still in the middle of figuring it out. And yet he's still doing deals. You don't have to be perfect. And why that's so important is just get out there and stumble forward and do deals. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. And you also mentioned another key factor is you have a coach, and you, through your networking, you have people and a community that you're building around you. You don't have to do this alone, and it's like, just let it deal and stumble into your first few deals, because you're going to learn by doing that. So I know you have a call at 1:00. So is there anything that you want to say that we haven't gotten to? And then I want to get to the rooftop message.
Yeah. I mean, it's taking that action, as we said, and don't be afraid to fail. I mean, it's important to get a coach. Yes, definitely get a coach. Definitely digest the content and whatnot. But the only way to really learn any business is to just do it.
I love it.
I've met a lot of willy, I call them career students, right? I've met people that have invested tens of thousands of dollars in coaching, and it doesn't mean the coaching was bad, but I'm like, okay, great. How many deals does that coach have to do? It's like, well, I'm still looking to do my first deal, and I started this 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
I know.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. And I am a coach, and I've been coaching real estate investors for almost as long as you've been a real estate investor. And I have had some of those clients, and I won't do it anymore, because you're dragging them along, because there is so much fear there that they think they have to know it all, and they're afraid to take action and make mistakes. And I have a saying: fear, frustration, and failure are part of the process. You've got to confront your fear as you move into the unknown and something new, you're going to be frustrated while you're learning a new skill because you know where you want to be, but you're not there yet because you haven't practiced it to master it yet. And then failure, all failure is learning how to do something you don't know how to do and stumbling, failing forward and learning by that, not being so terrified by that. Like, you know, that's why people have coaches. That's why you have a community. It's like, okay, so let's figure this out. Like, I had a client who's had some challenges in the rehab they're doing. And I said, all right. And there were a lot of fires to fight all at once. And he was really stressed out. I said, look, wait a minute. We're just going to fight one little fire at a time. Let's pick the smallest one. Look, this isn't the end of the world. I want you to stay in the day, focus on one thing at a time. You're going to get through it. You're going to be in a completely different place in a week from now than you are where you are now. And this is what this business is. It's solving problems.
Yes.
And there are no perfect deals. You have to plan for the unexpected. And you just gotta not get too emotionally invested. So I love that. I also have a saying, I totally agree with you on the action, because that's how you learn, is by doing. Take action, no excuses, just results. So what's your rooftop message? Like, if you could stand on the rooftop of that house behind you and yell to the whole world, like a message that if you could get through the new investors, what would that message be?
You know, we've kind of covered a lot of it already. I mean, the whole take action is probably the number one, because that's the bedrock of anything else. You know, when they say you always miss out on 100% of the shots you don't take, right, is part of it. So before you have any other mantra, that's the first one. So unlock that action. So once you decide to take action, though, and differentiate, which we talked about, the whole different is better than better, but try to formulate a plan. You know, what's your plan? Where do you want to be? Like, I always have my mentees do a why statement. I say, hey, what's your 1, 5, and 10-year plan? And have fun with it. You know, this is supposed to be fun, you know, being an entrepreneur or doing your own thing. And reverse engineer what your goal is going to be, right? Okay, you want to own your first rental property in the next 3 months. Great. What do you have to do? How do you have to find your funding, your deal itself, a mentor? But, you know, have a plan and stick to that initial plan. And probably the other thing, and you kind of alluded to a little bit, is one of the best things about real estate is you could do a lot of JV. I love doing JV deals. You know, even a guy that's been experienced like I do, because that's a good way to kind of have a built-in partner or mentor, if you will. Find someone with more experience if you're brand new.
Yeah, because you're going to learn a lot. You're going to see things from a different point of view, a different perspective. Because sometimes we get tunnel vision. We don't always see things. We have blind spots. So I really love that. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Because I want to be respectful that you have a call.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, anyone on this group, you know, my friend me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook a lot, as you've heard. I've got a group I'm building on Facebook. If you're in the Connecticut market, called CT, Off Market Real Estate Deals and Funding, that I'm growing right now. We've got about 2,000 members in just a couple months. So building that out. I'm always looking for JVs. I always looking for bird dogs. So, you know, as I say around, if people put in the time and they're coachable and they're honest, I love helping people, because that's the whole nature of this. Like, listen, like a lot of people, I want to make a lot of money, but I want to do that, achieve that abundance to help others, right? Like, I aspire to have a nonprofit. That's why I mentor people, because I want to teach those that are less fortunate, people that can't afford to go to college or don't have the background to really have
hire a coach or spend tens of $1,000s on education. You're paying it forward. You're paying it forward.
So that's part of it. So so reach out to me. I'm always looking to, you know, get referrals, appreciate referrals, you know, obviously. But I always
Dave,
just love
in the comments down below, once we're done live and posts, in the comments down below, put your contact information of how you'd like people to reach you.
Sure. No, I'll do that.
Well, I want to respect your time, because I know you have a call at 1, and I want to thank you so much for your patience on the technical difficulties getting into this conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed learning, you know, who you are and what you're about. impressed with your journey. Like, and congratulations, this is your first year of full time. It's no longer a side hustle. And I appreciate your humility about the operational stuff and needing to step back. We're doing that constantly as entrepreneurs and real estate investors. You're going along, you're gaining momentum, and then all of a sudden you hit a brick wall and you got to step back and regroup and reevaluate. Those are good signs of growth. It means the ceiling has now become your floor. They're uncomfortable, but you're in a growth spurt right now. And it's great that you have the humility to know that, and you have a lot of experience. And so I want to thank you so much for being such a gracious guest. And I look forward to seeing more of you and getting to know you better in our interactions and other podcasts and groups.
Very good. Really appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. You're welcome. Bye.
Mhm.